So I've been thinking about doing a video like this for a while, but the difference between low D whistles and flutes, wooden flutes or carbon fiber flutes, the conical bore, Irish flutes, and when I first started listening to Irish music and playing whistles, like I had difficulty telling the difference between the two, and now I can usually pick them out fairly easily. And there's a couple of things that there's a couple of characteristics. Typically, I think of a flute. Well, I hear people saying, "Does this low whistle have a flute-like tone?" And what I associate with flutes, like a flute-like tone, is typically a less open sound. Typically, you can hear that hard, bottom D, the kind of honks, but it tends to be very powerful. There's more control over the dynamics of the whistle, or of the from the flute, because a flute is kind of like a low whistle with a continuously variable fipple. So your lips are actually shaping the airstream in a way that allows you to make adjustments, and that's why you can have a powerful low end and a soft top end, or you can have a soft low end, or a louder top end. You've got the ability to change the angle of the airstream and adjust it, and so you can get a wider range of sounds out of a flute. But and I think you could probably make a flute sound more whistle-like. And so the idea of like a flute-like tone can sort of depend on how you play flute. And so one of the things I wanted to do, so I've got my Solon Lassouf. This is a Blackwood flute. It's got 4 keys, and so pretty standard. Good maker for a flute. So if I can get my so you can hear kind of that reedy, dark. Got a compressed sound, but I can loosen my embouchure and get kind of a it's a much softer sound. And so obviously that can play into how you play in kind of your dynamics. You can really focus your embouchure and get that hard, reedy sound without a lot of extra air noise, or you can loosen it up. And so you can kind of see how the difference between whistles, you basically have a maker that is choosing an embouchure for you that is going to work throughout the entire range, and that can come with issues with tuning, trying to make it, you're trying to make the same exact embouchure work at the bottom end as it does in the top end, where you have you're basically the only variable that you can apply is you blow harder or softer. So for a flute a whistle that sounds more flute-like, in my opinion, would be like this. Is one that I picked up off the used form on Chiff and Fipple. It's the third time I've bought this whistle. This is an Onyx by Walt Sweet, and it's Delrin, and it's got like a flute body essentially, and even the finger spacing is very close together. I can play it with my fingertips if I want. Most low whistles require a piper's grip to play comfortably, but the holes are tiny, especially even for a flute standard. But this one has like a really warm, kind of thick sound, and I've put up a sticky tack putty wall on it, sort of like a Copeland, because I kind of like how it plays, and I've been playing around with kind of the shaping of it. And I'm thinking about maybe I might make a more permanent solution on this kind of, like, I know they have like epoxy putty. Maybe I can get like a shiny black epoxy putty. But let's see. So here I get that really thunderous kind of low note. If I switch back to the lasso, so again, you can see even the onyx is a more open sound. If I switch, this is a Gary Summers Delrin flute. So So, and then Burke has kind of a boomy low end. There's an aluminum Burke low D. Two. See, I keep hitting that E a little hard. So you can lean into hit the low D really hard. But if you try to do the same thing with the E, or the F sharp, and same thing with the onyx, the low D, and then the E, F sharp. So this E is pretty delicate. So coming down the, but also if you tongue at all, see the, particularly on, like I said, the low D, it holds as long as you don't, do any sort of tonguing attack. But I think. So you can get some kind of cool tonguing effects, even on the onyx, that might be a little harder. Well, so let me try it. So some people can tongue on the flute a lot better than I can, and I've seen Michael McGoldrick do this on the flute. But he starts out with a really cool like tonguing opening on there, which I find a lot easier to do on the low whistle than I do on the flute. But partly it's because I'm trying to hold my embouchure strong, and for some reason when I tongue, I tend to lose the tone for a second. So it's a little bit more difficult, but same thing, Burke. We'll see. It's even a little bit. So I just find the tonguing to be easier because again, it's not dependent on your lips, your embouchure, in order to form the tone. It's basically just you're pushing air, so kind of you're sort of like. This is the Summers. If I roll it in more. Like I said, there's some more technique there, but like I said, overall, I think the flute tends to be more versatile in that respect. But again, I'll show you the difference. Again, here's the onyx. See. If I can, one of the things with a putty. So that was kind of rough, but here's a Goldie. See. So here's the difference there. Here's the Chieftain V3. It's pretty cold today. I really find I like the tone a lot of the Chieftain V3. It's kind of a like a whistle. It's very much a what I imagine when I think of a low whistle tone. It's kind of breathy and wild, and it's very open. So it's not the most powerful out there. So again, kind of a very whistly tone on this, whereas I find the Goldie to be a little bit stronger on the bottom end. The tone is a little bit more compressed. But again, so. So each low whistle has its own quirks. I find the Onyx to be extremely, like, very much on the like, you need to be a better whistle player to play this whistle. Well, it takes a lot of breath control to hit the notes, because these bottom notes want to be played really hard. But there's not a lot of room between where they're closest to sounding in tune, and with that powerful buzz and the point at which they're going to break. And especially if you're coming down onto them, I find it harder. Especially the E. So it just kind of, it takes a lot of familiarity, and I'm still grappling with it. But here's a little Soof. carbony here. Warm it up. I feel like I'm not getting a good tone out of it this morning. So this is one of the reasons I don't like doing flute comparisons, because your embouchure, one, it can change and you kind of like mold into what the flute requires as you listen and kind of feel for how things are working. And sometimes I really love the tone I get out of my carbony. It tends to have a sharper, edgier, more textured tone than some of the others. But then there's times when like I can't get that to happen. So I find the summers to have a really smooth, buttery tone to it, and the Lasuf is somewhere in between, I guess. A little bit more texture, especially on the bottom end, than a little bit more resonance on the bottom end than the summers. But that's what I'm getting out of the carbony right now. Here's a little soup. The summers. There, I'm not seeing much of a difference. I'm not hearing a whole lot of difference between the three of them. The onyx. And the Burke. Goldie. the chieftain. And then let me see if I'll. Here, oh, this is the Summers. It's my carbony. And again, I'm switching between embouchure styles. And then here's my onyx. And then the Burke. Goldie. Whistles are just easier. Here's the V3. Just blow them hard. Yeah, so that's kind of. I should probably throw my MK in here. And there's my dog. MK is like a Chieftain V3, but beefier tone throughout, a little bit less, a little more focus, stronger tone. But again, it kind of takes some of the whistliness out of it, I think. More complex textured tone. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Again, my fluting skills are middling, and my whistling skills are also middling. But I hope that helps you kind of hear the difference between a flute and a low whistle, so you can decide for yourself what a fluty tone sounds like. Again, understanding that everyone has a different embouchure, so somebody's flute tone on a given flute might be different than someone else's tone they get out of the same flute. I heard Sean Gavin play I think it's Sean Gavin, play a carbony F flute, and the way he played it was very breathy and light, and sounded good. But when I play the F flute, I get a much harder, reedier, stronger tone on it. So it's just a difference in play styles. Some people have a darker, harder tone than others. So again, what people associate with a fluty tone can vary considerably depending on even how they play. If they have a flute and they play the flute, they have an idea of what a flute sounds like in their mind, maybe based on their own embouchure, maybe an underdeveloped embouchure. And then they apply that to whistles, and they say, oh, this has a fluty tone. So kind of it's kind of a moving target as far as what you think of being a fluty tone. But again, for me, I think of a thicker, stronger bottom end, kind of a heavier sound. Whereas whistle tone, I think of like open and maybe a little breathier, more hollow sounding. Kind of goes with the openness, a little bit wilder. But definitely on the top end, you get like kind of this almost screaming, like wild tonal quality on a whistle, and whereas the low end is softer. So a lot of tunes, the second part of the tune tends to go up into the second octave, and that works really well for whistles, where you kind of get this soaring, extra boost in volume for the dynamics. Whereas as a flute, you can control that and you can balance it out, so you can kind of like push harder on the low end and be softer on the high end, and so you have more options. But that's kind of like with a whistle, you're pretty much set. It's going to be lower in the lower volume in the first octave, higher volume in the second octave. Some whistles makers do a better job of balancing those two. Some whistles like the onyx and the Burke, and even the Goldie to a certain extent, you have the ability to lean in on that very bottom note to get a powerful sound. You just don't have as much control over the tuning. You basically push it into tune. At a certain point, some notes, it may be difficult to actually push them hard enough to get them up to pitch. That's kind of what I find with the onyx. I struggle to, particularly that E, the F sharp. I have trouble pushing them hard enough without breaking into the second octave to get them up to pitch. Whereas with a flute, you can do things with your lips. You can roll it away from you, roll it in. There's some adjustments that you can make on specific notes, especially if you're going to linger on a specific note. There's some things that you can do with a flute to bring the pitch into line with what you need, that you just can't do with whistle. So anyway, I hope that's informative and interesting. And if you're still here at 38 minutes, goodness, thanks.